Hello everyone, I'm Melissa Duran. Thank you so much for joining us on Trending Vegas. We have a lot to get to today. I'm joined by a portion of our city's communications team, including Jennifer Davies and Darren Aston. Darren, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
He's been part of the communication teams for, how long have you been with the city now?
About a year and a half.
Okay, a year and a half. We've never had him on the show, and so, I made the call. I was like, Darren, guess what? You're up, buddy. So welcome. It's easy. But we do have a lot to get to. A lot has happened since our last show. And of course, why wouldn't it? It's 2020. We should expect nothing less, right? So first, the issue that affects every Nevadan, and that is the governor's directive that everyone has to wear face masks when they are out in public. Here's a look at some of the social media. We have this one from Orkomana. Governor Sisolak issues emergency directive making masks mandatory in public spaces in Nevada. This takes effect Thursday, June 25th at 11:59 p.m. Of course, we have the responses. Yes, our governor just made wearing masks outside mandatory in Nevada. Finally, now people better listen. No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. Of course, this went national. This is from McCarran Airport. If you're traveling through LAS, don't forget to cover your poker face. Masks are mandatory in public spaces in the state of Nevada. Many airlines require them as well, so come to the airport prepared. Of course, a lot of the statues and digital things have come up. Masks now mandatory in Vegas casinos and other public spaces. And then we have these. Not gonna do it. And this one, well, I'm not complying. So I just wanted to see what your office, the Office of Communications, dealt with maybe when this first came out. Did you guys get any questions?
Yes, I think there's a lot of questions about specifically how it applies in different weird circumstances, like if you're out walking your dog or whatever. But I can't remember a time in the 7 years that I've been doing this job that a topic has been more polarizing for people. The amount of comments that we get, people are very entrenched in both sides, whether they're going to comply or not, and it's been a lot.
What are you seeing, Darren, on social media?
I've seen a lot of questions about the enforcement of it. People are wondering, like, if they're caught without wearing a mask, are they going to get arrested? Are they going to get a fine? How much is that fine going to be? So I think there's a lot of uncertainty about that aspect of it, as well as businesses on that end. Like, what are the consequences for businesses when they don't enforce the policy for their patrons?
Right. I know that, I went to a restaurant since this has taken effect, and I had to wear the mask going in. I had to wear a mask to the table. Once I got to the table, the hostess said you can take your mask off. Just when you leave, you have to put it back on. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. I have no problem complying with this because I think the numbers that we've seen nationwide, they're starting to go up. And personally, I would hate us to have to close again. I don't think there's anybody that'd be like, let's close. But, it's a tricky situation. The one thing I'm confused about, I've seen a lot of police officers, I'm not going to name which jurisdiction, which anything, that are not wearing masks. Do we know, is there some sort of loophole where they don't have to? Have we heard of that?
Not that I know of. We've been told that all of our city employees, and that includes our deputy city marshals and firefighters, are all complying with the order, and we're all required to wear masks. If we can't social distance, even when we're in public hallways, even when they're parking garage, like walking over to work, we're supposed to be wearing them.
What are your thoughts, Darren? What are your thoughts on the whole thing? Are you just personally pro wearing masks? Have you found it hindering at all?
Well, I'm pro wearing masks. I feel like, if you can help other people, I think that's the main thing, is to help other people, because you don't know what other people are going through, what their ailments might be, or what can affect them. So I feel like wearing the mask is something that you're doing for other people, even if you don't believe in it yourself.
Right. Jen?
And to me, we're just kind of beyond like, do you agree or don't you? Because it's a mandate now. We're all supposed to do it. So let's just all get on board and do it. And it's not comfortable for anyone. As much as we're, uncomfortable wearing them at work at times, I think about, our first responders and healthcare providers that have to literally wear them all day. I went to my dental hygienist and she actually had to wear 2 masks. Because she has to leave one underneath, and then she has a mask on top of it, and then all their PPE on top of it. So they're going through a lot. I think it's a small price to pay that we should have to wear masks too.
I think what's surprising for this topic for me is seeing the different conversations that have arisen because of it. For example, abortion. People saying, you are having a fit over being told you have to wear a mask, yet you tell me what I have to do with my body or what I can't do with my body. And so different arguments like that have come up, and I thought it's interesting how you're absolutely right. This is very polarizing. super controversial.
People have a lot of different opinions, but I mean, government oversight is a reality in our life. Do you want to eat at a restaurant that's failed health inspections?
Right.
You know, do you stop at red lights? All those things are dependent upon the compliance of society. And so I kind of look at masks as being part of that too.
Right, and I think whether you're for it, against it, I think we can all agree nobody wants to close again.
Right.
Nobody wants to go back to those unemployment numbers that we saw in March and April. And if this is a step to get us there, then let's just suck it up, Buttercup, and just do it. So the one thing I will say is that it is going to be interesting to see the numbers. Our numbers have spiked recently. A lot of that is because delayed testing or delayed results. But we have seen some casino workers get COVID and some other things as well. I mean, is there any talks downtown? Have you all heard about closing anything or just keep going?
I think everyone's kind of going to keep going. It seems like businesses are, you know, if they have someone test positive, maybe not the casinos, but some of the smaller businesses, you know, they're closing for like a deep cleaning. And so I think time will only tell how businesses are going to handle that because more people are obviously going to keep getting it. So,
and as we know, the governor just extended the phase 2 phase until the end of July. So we're going to be like this for a while. All right, speaking of downtown, let's go on to our next topic. We now know when the newest resort, Circa, is going to be opening up, and they managed to keep a point of it a secret. They really amaze me how they're able to keep it quiet until now. Here's a look. Okay, so that's the first announcement. They are opening early, October 28th. They are already taking reservations. In fact, there was a thing in the RJ Today, an article in the RJ Today, that one of the reservations is for $999 a night for New Year's Eve in one of the towers. So they're hoping for a big turnout. But here was the other little gem that they mentioned when they announced this. Once Las Vegas held a certain mystique as this fabulous place where only grown-ups could play. Call us old-fashioned, but we think adults need some of that mystique back in their lives. Book your room starting June 24th at 9 a.m. for Circa Las Vegas, a 21-plus experience. Of course, this set off social media. Love the old school approach that Derek Stevens takes to everything he does in Vegas. What a class act. He really cares about making a good resort for the customer, not Wall Street. Can't wait to experience it. And then we have this one. I love it. Take your kids to Disney, not Vegas. So first of all, did you guys get any comments on the fact that this is going to be a 21-plus resort?
yeah, I mean, honestly, the ones that I saw were pretty positive about it, honestly. And I think Derek Stevens is well positioned to do this because he does also own the D and Golden Gate. So from a customer's perspective, if someone comes in with their kids, you know, they have other accommodations like right across the street that they could still take care of families. But I think it's a really innovative approach and we'll have to see how it goes.
Darren, what are your thoughts?
I think that Fremont Street experience is, mainly for adults anyway. So to cater to that market, I feel like it's a smart move because there's going to be those people looking for that, and they want that experience without kids to, dampen their fun. So.
I do have to say that, before the pandemic, a Fremont Street experience, you would see a lot of kids there because there's a lot of the characters, that's the word I'm looking for, that you can take pictures with. It's a lot more just kind of coming in and out. There's some other stores, some souvenir shops. And it will be interesting for me as an adult if I were to say, you know what, I don't want to take the kids or I just want to get away from this family environment and being able to sneak into a casino where I know that it's going to be more adults. I like that idea. My question is, do you think that if Derek Stevens finds success with this, do you think that other hotels are going to follow suit?
Well, I think a lot of people probably don't realize, I think it was Bellagio when they first opened, tried it. And obviously kids are still allowed there. So they must have found that, for whatever reason, it wasn't super doable. But, we're in a new time. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see if that becomes, kind of like a perk
regular,
for them.
Yeah.
Right.
A normal thing.
Right, over everybody else, or if it, if they do change it and allow kids. But like I said, I think because he has those other resorts right there, I think that, there's not really a lot of risk in doing it because they'll still be able to take care of families at their other properties.
Would you like to see the Strip, for example, do some 21 over properties? Darren, your thoughts?
I think that would be cool to see, first to check out what happens with Circa and then see if that following suit would, work out.
Right. I don't know. I'm torn on it because
we have little kids.
I've got kids, right?
But we love going out without our kids, so I get it.
Yeah, but you know what? Some of the best restaurants are on the Strip, and if kids aren't allowed in, does that mean that I can't take my kid to a nice restaurant there? But sometimes I don't want them there, so it's a huge thing. But it's going to be interesting to see how
it turns out.
Exactly. All right, guys, let's go to our next topic, and that is the big win for Dreamers after a Supreme Court ruling allows them to stay in the U.S. without fear of being deported. Here's a look at some of the social media. This one from ACLU. This is an important win, but the fight is not over. Now it's up to the Senate to pass the Dream and Promise Act to permanently protect Dreamers and for presidential candidates to pledge to do the same. Today, America told the Dreamers that this is their home. Justice prevailed for every Dreamer who has worked hard to help build our community, our neighbors, teachers, doctors, and first responders. The Supreme Court seems to be the only effective branch of government now. Great rulings this week on DACA and LGBTQ rights. And then we have this one. DACA, Supreme Court is on a roll. I'm trying to find a word for the feeling in your chest when hope is finally restored and something long broken inside of you begins to repair. I am Hispanic. I was extremely thrilled to see this ruling. I know a lot of Dreamers, wonderful assets to the community all over the nation. And so for me, this was a highlight of 2020 in a good way because it's been really, 2020 in general has been hard. What have you guys been seeing on social media?
I mean, I think that a lot of comments that I saw were really impressed that the Supreme Court would make really two liberal, groundbreaking decisions in the same week. I think there were a lot of concerns with the current presidential administration's appointees to the Supreme Court that we would see it swing back more conservative. And I think what we're finding is that, like society, things are becoming more open-minded and wanting to work on solutions that work for everyone in our country.
Darren?
I've seen a lot of comments of our community, of people here in Las Vegas actually, that are so excited about the decision, and it makes me realize that our community is so affected by this. So I feel like the Supreme Court made a great decision to continue with it.
Absolutely. The one thing that I thought was interesting with this topic, and maybe I wasn't looking in the correct place, but I didn't see a lot of negativity towards this decision. Typically when we have, for example, the mask topic we just talked about, or other LGBTQ rights or whatever, there's social media on both sides. I didn't see that with this one. I looked because I want to be fair and show both sides of what's happening, but I couldn't find it. Did you guys see any negativity to this decision?
I didn't really either, and I think it really speaks to maybe a consensus among people that regardless of how you feel about immigration, when these children when these adults were brought here as children, when they are contributing members of society, I think they had to pass a lot of requirements to even be considered a Dreamer. For these upstanding citizens, to be given a chance at citizenship, I think that there's a lot of people who can get behind that.
Right, absolutely. All right, well, that's a highlight, a good highlight for 2020. All right, guys, let's go on to the final topic today. We have to talk about the mahogany fire at Mount Charleston. You guys see the sky, how crazy it was. Here's a look. As of today, it's only 5% contained, but here's some video. This is views from Mount Charleston Resort. You can see just the smoke that is coming out. I thought initially that this was just a dust storm rolling in.
Yeah, it was really windy that day.
Right, and so I thought, I think there's a storm brewing somewhere. But then as I started taking a look, it just got closer and closer and closer. And of course, everyone saw this image. The sun with the redness that was right over my house. It's amazing.
Very eerie.
So what they're saying right now is that this was human cause. This was started at a campground, and I just wanted to talk about it because we are in the season of monsoon season. We've got dry lightning strikes. We've got people outdoors trying to just get out, and windy, and already with the fireworks, people in my neighborhood were popping fireworks, and I do not know if this is fireworks related. I don't know, but just in conjunction with it.
There's points that can be transferred to other parts of our lives right now.
30 mile per hour winds up in the Northwest, and people were outside shooting off fireworks. What are you guys seeing on them? Are you seeing people upset about this fire, or what are you seeing on social?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was all people were talking about on Sunday, just like hoping it could be contained. If you've lived here for a while, 7 years ago, we had the Carpenter 1 fire in 2013. And I mean, that was pretty catastrophic for Mount Charleston. And just a little heads up on future news this summer, we may see the same problem now that we saw with that, which is where during monsoon season, a lot of that rainfall, without the trees and everything to absorb it, it flows right into the valley, and that caused a number of challenges.
Yes,
in 2013,
yeah.
right? But the Northwest has also gone through a lot of like regional flood upgrades since then, so we're hopeful that those upgrades will pay off, but I still think there's a lot of ramifications beyond even just a wildfire that'll impact life here in the valley.
Absolutely. I immediately started getting nervous because the Carpenter One fire was just so incredibly huge and overtook the Northwest in terms of the sky. I remember being outside and ash falling just on my car, on my head, and it was kind of crazy. Darren, what are you seeing on social?
I've seen a lot of concern of like the wildlife out there and the nature, because Mount Charleston is, a gem of ours. So to see that up in smoke, it's really sad to see. And thinking about all the wildlife that they might not have the chance to escape, like how someone might be able to drive away, it's really sad to see.
You know what? It's going to be interesting because I know that when this pandemic was going on and people were trying to get outdoors, they were putting fire restrictions in place. No campfires, no XYZ, and we should go back and look to see what restrictions are still in place. Now, this happened at a campground, so it may have just gotten out of hand. The wind could have been a factor, but just be careful out there. Remember your surroundings.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person.
Oh, yeah.
Where you see catastrophic damage and you think that you did something silly.
Yeah.
That contributed to it. I mean, that would be awful to live with. So we all definitely need to be careful and do our part.
It's so funny that you say that because I look at fires like that as human cause and I go, ooh, if you're that person, yikes, right?
That would be awful.
That would be horrible. Darren?
That's karma.
Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully they will get this under control. It was 5% contained as of Tuesday, June 30th. So hopefully the winds have died down. They'll start to make some headway on there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Darren, thanks so much.
you.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, I'm sitting down with the CEO and president of Fremont Street Experience to talk about the challenges they are facing and how they are adapting since the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be right back.
You're doing great. We're gonna try this again, okay?
Okay.
Wheels, pedals, handlebar, brakes. Sit up straight, keep your weight in the center, keep your eyes on the road, hands on the grips, button the seat. If we feel ourselves falling, what do?
Just keep pedaling.
Good girl. Now remember, it's all about balance and steering. Steer with your hands, steer with your body. Steer into the corners and you stay out of trouble. And the bell's your buddy, so go ahead and ding that. All right, you ready? Here we go. Pedal, honey, pedal. There you go, you're a bike rider.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Papa!
Welcome back, everyone. Navigating this pandemic has not been easy, especially in areas where foot traffic is essential, like Fremont Street Experience. I'm joined now by CEO and President of Fremont Street Experience, Patrick Hughes. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So there was so much buzz on this show even about Fremont Street Experience and the new vision board that you had and just all this exciting stuff coming, and then boom, COVID-19 hits. So let's just back up a little bit right before the pandemic. How were you all doing down on Fremont Street Experience?
Well, downtown has been growing incredibly over the last few years. And as you just mentioned, we just finished on New Year's Eve, we unveiled a $32 million upgrade of the canopy. And it's been absolutely spectacular. But even before that, growth downtown has been increasing. And in the first 2.5 months of this year, we were on a steady growth again. Until that fateful day of everyone's favorite day of the year was St. Patrick's Day, which is when the governor and the state came down with the mandate that we needed to shut down our businesses.
And that's a big day on Fremont Street.
It is one of the top 3 days of the year on Fremont Street for visitation, as you can imagine, being Patrick and Irish on that day as well. But it really was a dilemma, to be honest with you, because we saw this coming. We knew. I just gotten back from Ireland, actually, having visited my parents, And we knew this was coming. At the same time, we're kind of planning an event, but we had stopped live entertainment a few days beforehand. And then I was actually relieved not to see the masses that we've had in previous years. And then, of course, following day on the 18th is when the casinos and the rest of the businesses needed to close.
Now, at one point, I know when it first happened, you hadn't shut it down, but at some point you actually had to put physical barriers from allowing people to walk in, correct?
And it's not a matter of just allowing. The fact is, none of the businesses were open. So we closed off the area to non-essential traffic to protect the business fronts and the storefronts. Some of them had to put up boards temporarily, of course, others didn't. And that was the sole purpose, was purely to protect the businesses.
So what did you do during the pandemic time between March and June when everything was shut down before we entered phase 2? What was the goal of Fremont Street Experience to try to deal with, well, we need the tourists, we need the foot traffic, but safety is our priority?
Safety is the first priority, and that always has been from all of our events. Public safety is our primary concern, without a doubt. Yes, we generally provide entertainment, and yes, there's a dichotomy there of having to drive visitation. But within that period, first and foremost, I had 280 staff to figure out. And their welfare was the highest priority of those of us who worked through this time. So we phased down, not knowing how long the closure would take. And then we had to work through the implementation of policies and procedures for when we ramped up. And then there was a pause there for a couple of weeks until, and you could see the rest of the country coming out of it slowly, and then finally we were given the approval, or gaming, hotel, casinos were given the approval to open on June 4th, and then it was ramping up again. Mm-hmm. So, it's a big machine to slow down, and then a big one to ramp back up again. But as you mentioned earlier, none of us have ever been here before. So it's uncharted territory, and it's trying to decipher all of the guidelines coming out and make the right decision for your staff, your visitors, yourselves, for when ramping up. So there's been a lot of work.
I think a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations in general have had to be adaptable because everyone's coming out of the gate for the first time with this. Some people are going to do it wrong, some people are going to do it right, some are going to be both right and wrong. And the ability to remain flexible during this time is key. So let's talk about what kind of changes people will now see if they want to go visit you all. What have you all implemented that you want the public to know?
Yes, so again, public safety is number one. I don't think there's any of us, irrelevant of what your opinions are, all of us are together in wanting to beat this, right? And we all need to be responsible. We all need to work together to ensure that, first of all, we beat the virus, that then we can open our businesses safely, get visitation back and get people comfortable in the destination. So first and foremost, it's visible procedures, clean and safe services. That is what everybody wants to see. Mm-hmm. So from our staff, greeting, so we have entrances. At each, we have 6 entrances that we're managing, controlled entry points. And quite simply, Fremont Street Experience Management Company, our mandate is to provide a clean and safe environment. That's been that way since day one, since 1995. Mm-hmm. And with that, especially now that masks are mandated, it's much easier for us to control those entrances. And now as a destination, a 6-city block destination with casinos and restaurants and retail, we will provide a mask as well. If you don't have one, we're not just saying you can't get in. Mm-hmm. And then of course our cleaning procedures. So every couple of hours now we're literally fogging the street, and they look like Ghostbuster style process. It is safe to the touch immediately as it hits. It's biodegradable, but it lasts for up to 12 hours. So we're getting into the crevices and the areas that you normally can't reach. Mm-hmm. And that's a cool process, actually. It's a bit of fun there. Yeah. And then, of course, we have Slotzilla. Of course, we have the zip line.
Is that open?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Open June 10th, I believe. And we're following the industry guidelines there in regards to attractions. IAAPA is the governing body. And there's 6-foot distances, and our capacity has decreased. Our productivity has decreased by 50%.
Okay.
And so that is, people are proving that that's still a very cool experience done safely.
Are you all having outdoor concerts again yet, or is that still not in the works? how is that going?
No, so absolutely not. No live entertainment.
Okay.
And we were heading in the wrong direction there for a minute. It never happened. We were corrected and we're back on track.
Adaptability.
Yeah, but now we're working with offices of the state of business and industry and SCATS, which is the training division of OSHA. First of all, to ensure that everybody knows the policies and procedures that we have put in place, and also then to work forward to when that right time is, that everyone knows, and we are also ensuring safety, and we're coming out safely when at that right time. So we're working with the appropriate offices of the state now to make sure that that happens at the right time.
I think people, when they think about Fremont Street Experience, you just think about the walkability of it. How do you maintain or get people to maintain 6 feet of social distance? And I know you guys, there was branding about 7 feet just for an extra precaution.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, so on that, let me go back to the 7 feet for a second, because in previous years, our Downtown Rocks summer concert series, the tagline has always been that we go one louder, right? Well, no, so now we've adapted that, and now we're going one longer. So one longer than 6 is 7. So all of the decals, all the social distancing marking and messaging encourages people to maintain a 7-foot distance.
Okay.
So from the bars, in front of the stages, even though there's no live entertainment, we have decals 7 foot apart. But our staff are actively walking the mall, discouraging groups, and not going to specifically individuals. We are going to be actively monitoring the mall. And with these controlled access points, it gives us the ability that if we determine that it gets too busy, we're simply going to shut down the entrances, right? So, and wait for it to clean out a little bit, to clear out a little bit, and then safely. So if it gets to a stage, and we haven't been there yet, it's been nowhere near that, even though we've had good visitation, the hotel casinos are somewhat pleased with the initial response of tourism. We are going to be very active in that going forward to ensure that people are able to maintain the adequate distances.
Yeah, so it's all about monitoring it 24/7.
Yes.
We do have to ask, because we have mentioned on the show, we have seen some metal detectors at some of the signs. Are those actually being used as metal detectors, or is that to control traffic going in?
So it's originally, so again, public safety is our primary concern, and that is our mandate. They have been metal detectors at special events, but we have them just as to veer people through controlled access points. Otherwise, it's a flimsy gate. And then as you're coming out, then of course we have turnstiles as well. So, but they're not temperature checkers. We don't have that ability.
Okay. Anything else you want people to know about Fremont Street Experience as we close out?
Look, we're still open for business. This is, as you said earlier, it's pedestrianized. It's a place that people come down to have fun. We are going to be enforce and encourage people to have fun safely. But we're open for business. It's open air. It's pedestrianized. Still come down. But I just encourage everyone to let's be safe through this period, and let's get out of this together.
If people are not wearing their masks there, will your enforcement tell them to please put on a mask, and if not, please leave?
Yeah, absolutely. We can ask.
Right.
We can ask, but no, similar to the adjacent casino properties, quite simply, if you're not being safe, we're going to ask you to go elsewhere. We need, as a community, to join together and get out of this thing.
Absolutely. Well, good luck to you. We can't wait to see till you're at full capacity again. All right.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you at home for watching. Remember, you can get in on the conversation. Just join us at City of Las Vegas using the hashtag TrendingVegas. We'll see you next time.